at someone. It makes you smile back. That made me smile hearing you giggle over there. Be genuine. Compliment someone. Don't do a fake compliment. And don't everybody run up and tell me how beautiful I am, because I already know that. Thank you. Make a new friend. That's what this is about, getting to know people, learning things. Pass this on. Be kind. We all have differences. Embrace that. Don't hug, though. That's weird. Okay? It's an HR violation. Thank you very much.
You're watching Clackamas TV.
Clackamas TV. Look for us on these local channels.
You're watching Clacko TV. You're watching Clacko TV. You're watching Clacko TV.
The idea behind the strategic bombing campaign is that air power could be decisive. Air power could go far behind the front line and strike the enemy in their homeland and be decisive. And in the end, the strategic bombing campaign conducted by the U.S. Army Air Forces did just that. The heavy bombing campaign in Europe was incredibly important to the Allied effort in World War II, and it was uniquely American. Only America had the right kind of platform and the right kind of systems and the right kind of strategy to conduct the daylight bombing campaign in Europe in World War II. And the goal of this campaign was to essentially destroy Germany's ability to produce war material and continue fighting. Now, it wasn't a linear campaign. In fact, there were all kinds of problems. We were actually essentially defeated about halfway through the campaign. But in the end, this campaign absolutely wrecked Germany's ability to move and produce war material. The reason why this campaign was uniquely American was in part because of the platforms that we used, namely the B-17 and the B-24. Those two aircraft had turbo-supercharged engines, and the United States was the only country in World War II that used turbo-supercharged aircraft in large numbers. So we also had, with these B-17s and B-24s, tremendous ability to carry load and the range it took to fly from bases in England and Italy to strike targets deep in Europe. Also, these aircraft had tremendous firepower in their defensive armament. About 10 to 12 50 caliber machine guns typically. While this wasn't enough for the bombers to fly these missions on their own, it did take fighter escort to be fully successful. They did shoot down a number of German fighters during the campaign. The strategic bombing campaign had a huge impact on Allied victory in Europe, but it came at a tremendous price. There were more than 30,000 Army Air Forces heavy bomber crewmen who were killed in combat. That's an extraordinary number, and it's not well understood or known the tremendous sacrifice of our heavy bomber crewmen. Early in the bombing campaign, for the first year or year and a half or so, the odds of finishing a tour were only about 1 in 4. And those other 3 airmen would have been shot down and captured, or would have been killed, or would have been wounded so badly they couldn't continue their tour. And that's at a time when 25 missions meant a ticket home. So the odds of even finishing 25 missions were only about 1 in 4 for that early part of the campaign. Another example of the cost is just how many of these heavy bombers that we lost. No other country could produce aircraft like the United States. When you look at the B-17 and the B-24, there were nearly 13,000 B-17s built and more than 18,000 B-24s built. So more than 30,000 heavy bombers were built. And of those 30,000 or so aircraft, more than 8,000 were lost in combat in the fight against Germany and Europe. Stunning numbers. And these young men, typically they're in their early 20s, average age is about 22, 23. These young men knew the odds that they were facing. They weren't blind. They could see what was happening. And yet, mission after mission after mission, these young men got inside of these aircraft, and even knowing that they're probably not going to survive their tour or they're going to end up in a German POW camp, they did their duty, and as a result, the war was certainly shortened by the effort of those crewmen against Germany.
Well, I feel very well prepared for this mission, and a lot of that preparation happened before I got to NASA. As you said, I was an Army aviator. I spent my whole career working high-risk missions in small teams in remote areas, which is what we're doing right now. And you know, there's a few things I really took from the Army. One was how to lead a team and make tough decisions in circumstances like that, how to be a good teammate, how to be reliable for your team, and how to make your team, you know, have trust in you. I think the skills that it takes or that it's required to fly helicopters in combat is very similar to what it takes to work on small teams up here in space. Yeah, the 2 spacewalks I did last month were, actually earlier this month, were very different. The first one was doing some battery replacement and upgrades to our power system here on Space Station, and the second one was installing some cable jumpers to allow us to have a redundant power system to our robotic arm. And ever since I first started training for spacewalk, something that struck me was how similar it was to being a pilot on a scout weapons team. And there's a few reasons for that. You know, the suits that we wear outside, they are like small spacecraft, keeping us alive out in the vacuum of space. And so you have to be able to monitor that suit. You have to know your suit well enough to make to enable yourself to do the mission while not having to think about the suit, but still at the same time monitoring its systems. It has its own power system and a thermal regulation system, electronic system, a radio system, very much like flying a helicopter. You know, the best pilots use that helicopter for the mission rather than all of their attention having to be focused on the helicopter. So getting to a level of proficiency where your focus can be on the mission, but you're also cross-checking this very complex system that your life is relying on, is very similar to doing a spacewalk. And in addition to monitoring yourself, you're also monitoring your partner that you're with. So up here on a spacewalk, that's the other astronaut that's outside with you. On the ground, that was the other helicopter that I was flying with. And most importantly, you know, you have to be able to work with that other person and their system, their spacesuit, their helicopter, in order to accomplish the mission. So it was actually amazing to me how many of the skills kind of carried over into that environment. Sure, one of the things that I really like to point out to soldiers and to civilians that are outside the military is that the Army is so diverse in the opportunities that it offers you, and no matter what your passion is, you really can find it within the Army. I was very fortunate to be able to pursue my passion for aviation. I was able to get advanced degrees because of the Army opportunities that I sought out. And the biggest advice I can give to soldiers is to have a goal and to think 5-7 years out. Where do you want to be? And then, you know, talk to your leaders and see what you can do to make that happen. The opportunities really are endless, and the sky is not the limit.
By Well, you know, it's interesting. People say, you know, Gabe, we understand that you hit the beach of Normandy on D-Day, which I did with the 116th Regiment, 29th Division. That was one day out of 201. And there were so many other battles that I remember so clearly. They made me a machine gunner, 30 caliber light machine gunner. You know, the life expectancy of a 30 caliber light machine gunner is 3 days. I'm still here. There were 3 of us from my machine gun squad that were hit by the mortar. Both of them were killed, and I just had a concussion. So that's the saddest day of my life. The 29th Division was going to come back early because they were overseas long before I was. So now our company guide on 175th Regiment Company I had been through battle. So when the division came back, he called me to the office and said, Sergeant, we want you to have, since you're the only survivor, that's probably my most treasured possession. It's okay to look back. Just don't stare.
It's been said that the most important thing every man should know is what he is willing to die for. On the distant shores of a quiet beach in the north of France, there is a field dotted with thousands of white headstones solemnly overlooking the English Channel. Those headstones mark the final resting place of courageous servicemen, some English, some Canadian, and of course, American. To this day, the locals refer to them all as the Liberators. 75 years ago, these brave souls stormed toward heavily fortified enemy positions, manned by battle-hardened Nazi soldiers. These servicemen fought to liberate the world from darkness. They fought for the ultimate human ideal, the ideal that America is built upon: freedom. And for that ideal, they laid down their lives on that altar, the altar of freedom. The grit they embodied was not new. Their warrior spirit was forged through a proud history of courage and selfless sacrifice. From Lexington and Concord to the battlefields of Gettysburg, Shiloh, and Bull Run. From the muddy trenches on the Western Front to the forests of Belleau Wood. From the punishing naval warfare of Midway to the fields of Sicily and the jungles of Guadalcanal. When their nation called, they answered. And while Americans made the ultimate sacrifice around the globe and here on these beaches of Normandy, their spirit lives on. It lives on through the new recruit raising their hand and taking the oath. It lives on through the soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine who serve with honor every day. It lives on through every veteran who ever wore the cloth of our nation. It lives on through every American man, woman, and child who serve their communities and look out for their neighbors. The best way to memorialize these American heroes is to forever embody their spirit, to continue to live by their example, and to never forget the debt we owe all of them for their sacrifice. Here, among these rows of headstones are countless stories of selfless bravery, which have been repeated on battlefields around the world throughout history. Our debt to them can never be fully repaid, but our responsibility to them remains. 75 years ago, these brave Americans embodied true fighting spirit. Today, and every day that follows, the legacy of their spirit is in our hands. And it is up to us to remember them, to honor them, and to ensure that the legacy of their spirit lives on. Forever.
You're watching Clacko TV. You're watching Clacko TV. You're watching Clacko TV.
Clacko TV. Look for us on these local channels.
You're watching Clacko TV. You're watching Clacko TV.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center.
In the wake of 9/11, we called on Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty. I never imagined that the time when that article would be called was not when Germany was attacked, but when America was attacked. In an era where the world is more complex and dangerous than we have seen in decades, our allies and partners become even more important.
Every time I've gone into combat over the last 28 years, we've been there side to side with our allies and partners. I've never been in a single fight where I've done it alone.
We can compete and deter and win most effectively when we operate together.
What sets the U.S. apart from its adversaries is their allies and partners. Working behind the scenes are international affairs airmen in more than 100 countries, maintaining these relationships through security cooperation efforts.
Security cooperation is building that relationship and partnership. It can be exercises, it can be training and professional military education, it can be equipment sales for interoperability, and then we also have information exchange and cooperative agreements.
There's a variety of assignments that an international airman can have. Each one is complex and unique in its own right, but together these airmen build partnerships, strengthen partner capabilities, and develop international airmen. One of the Air Force's most experienced international affairs specialists are called Foreign Area Officers, also known as FAOs.
FAOs must have three things to become certified as a FAO. One is language.
La seguridad.
One is regional expertise.
Abu Dhabi, Musaha.
And then the last one is a advanced academic degree with a regional focus. So through our skills in language, regional expertise, and culture, we understand how to develop the relationship with the host nation where we're trying to accomplish our objectives.
Obviously, working in the combat zone is going to speed up that relationship, but you can't surge trust and you can't surge interoperability. It's got to be worked over time. So by having these set of regional experts working with our partner nations while we're not at war enables us to be much more effective in the case of a war.
After training, FAOs can take on a number of roles, like security cooperation officers or air attaché. The two positions are complementary, but the attaché serves in a more diplomatic capacity. They maintain relationships at the highest level and keep informed about what's happening in and around their assigned country, whereas security cooperation officers are specifically focused on building partner capabilities to make working together easier when addressing mutual security challenges. One of the many countries around the world hosting both an air attaché and a security cooperation officer is Jordan.
So at the most basic level, my responsibilities here as the Air Attaché is to maintain the relationship for the U.S. Air Force with the Royal Jordanian Air Force. So what that gets me is access to the Royal Jordanian Air Force leadership, which in turn gets translated over to when our senior leaders come, they can then meet with the most senior people here.
The relationship between United States Air Force and Royal Jordanian Air Force is a long-lasting and a historic and enduring relationship since a long time ago. After September 11, Jordan was among the first country who arrived at the United States Central Command. We are standing side by side with the United States, the Jordanian government, Jordanian armed forces, and we have fought with them together. We flew together over Syria and over Iraq.
At the end of the day, their goals are our goals. They want a stable region, they want a stable Jordan, which is why they stand alongside us with the same exact goals to eliminate terrorism in the region and to create a stable environment for their population.
In order to create a more stable environment, it's important to have the right equipment and training to defend the area. That's where security cooperation officers come in.
So they enhance what I do here. While I maintain the relationship at the operational and strategic level of the RJAF, they are bringing training and operational level experience to the tactical and operational level, which then enhances Jordan's capability and Jordan's ability to fight alongside us, which then enables us to not have to send as many people. If I have a Jordanian Air Force F-16 flying and dropping bombs, that's a US Air Force F-16 that doesn't have to.
So we actually have a pretty robust training office here in Jordan. We send between 500 and 600 Jordanians to the US every year, and we also train between 200 and 300 here in Jordan. Figuring out what type of training they need to get the capabilities they want is a key part of it. We spend a lot of time going and talking to the units. I have a counterpart who I mainly work with on the RJAF side in the Air Force, and then also on the JAF side for the Army. We meet with them twice a week to discuss what courses we need and how to get those courses.
They work with us also in setting with us the plans and review the 5-year security assistance roadmap that we have.
We have to put together those long-term plans to figure out how to get them from point A to point B. And what needs to come up in the next year or 2 years or 3 years, and making sure there's enough money to support that training, and making sure that the capabilities that the Jordanians want are being addressed.
Another way the U.S. builds relationships and strengthens partner capabilities is through the Military Personnel Exchange Program, also known as MPEP. This program integrates airmen into a squadron of another country's Air Force. Basically, partner countries trade airmen for a period of time to develop a better understanding of how that Air Force operates and to increase each other's capabilities. An example of that is the U.S. currently has a maintenance exchange officer and an F-16 pilot embedded with the Royal Jordanian Air Force. On the other side, an RJAF maintenance officer and pilot are embedded with the United States Air Force in the States.
Once you get here, your first reaction is, it's got to be like the U.S. Air Force, right? Because that's what we come from. And then you have that wave of kind of trying to accept that it's not going to be like the U.S. Air Force because it's not the U.S. Air Force. But then after that, you kind of come to a place where you can work together on a very seamless level. And the biggest thing I've seen is, RJAF members asking, well, how do you do it? And then explaining how they do it and trying to find somewhere in the middle that works for both.
To have more people with different experience, with different paces in U.S., that is a great thing. Each and every guy comes over here with a new idea, and he tried to implement all the experience that he had in USAF and to implement it here in RJAF.
At the same time, RJAF officers are back in the States, teaching U.S. airmen and improving operations. These personnel exchanges enhance relationships between the air forces, creating a stronger force together. This is just one example of more than 100 countries around the world where security cooperation efforts are happening. The U.S. is committed to maintaining and building new international partnerships to achieve global security and stability.
We need to never forget that not only are we the most ready and lethal Air Force, but we have willing, ready, and lethal partners. That's something that our adversaries don't have. That's what makes us fly, fight, and win.
Having poor vision is a major hindrance to a warfighter's capabilities, and ultimately the Air Force. Glasses get damaged or lost, making the wearer handicapped, which can prove deadly on the battlefield. Gas mask inserts fog up and fall out, and contacts aren't even allowed downrange. Good eyesight can be the difference between life and death in the most extreme cases. That's why the Warfighter Eye Center at Joint Base Andrews, Maryland is helping lead the way to enhanced eyesight and improved mission readiness by offering 2 types of laser eye surgery: photorefractive keratectomy, or PRK, and LASIK.
There is an instant wow factor. We usually, especially if it's a big treatment, we'll just tell them, hey, look at the clock. And we've had a range of emotions. We've had people burst into tears of joy, I should say, because they've been wearing glasses for 20 years and have never been able to see further out than their face.
Both procedures use lasers to reshape the cornea of your eye. PRK uses a refractive laser to shave down and remove the imperfect surface layer of the cornea, then reshapes it so that new tissue can grow, providing 20/20 and possibly 20/15 vision. While LASIK creates a flap of tissue using a femtosecond laser. The flap is pulled back so an excimer laser can make cornea corrections. The flap is then closed and secured.
I personally had it done. 2008, I'm 10 years out, I'm still 2015. I think it was one of the best decisions I ever made for myself. The Air Force did my PRK, my mentor did my PRK.
This newer laser technology is much more efficient than the older surgical tech, which used blades. It's so safe that both PRK and LASIK are now offered to every Air Force career field. Technology is integral for the medical profession, and ophthalmology is at the tip of the spear. Using technology ensures a combat edge. The Warfighter Eye Center is working to make the warfighter true to sight, ready to fight, and turning members from liabilities to assets.
watching Clacko TV.
Clacko TV. Look for us on these local channels.
You're watching Clacko TV. You're watching Clacko TV. You're watching Clacko TV.
Clacko TV. Look for us on these local channels.
You're watching Clacko TV.
For 30 years, NASA's space shuttle pushed the boundaries of what was capable in space. From satellite launch and repair to building the International Space Station, the shuttle enabled humans to learn what it takes to live and work in space.
Now that the space shuttle era has ended, NASA is busy writing the next chapters in human spaceflight. Join us as we explore the future of human space exploration.
I'm Molly McKinney.
And I'm Caleb Kinchlow.
And this is NASA
360. Today, NASA is developing tools and technologies that will make 21st century spaceflight possible.
And it's these capabilities that will take humans into deep space and further into the solar system than we've ever been before.
It was a generation ago when Neil Armstrong took one giant leap forward.
And now, NASA is prepared to take humanity's next giant leap.
NASA is looking forward with anticipation to a new era of human spaceflight. This new era will have a profound impact on your life, with countless possibilities in the coming years.
After the Apollo program, which took Americans to the moon, the Space Shuttle program gave us 30 years of outstanding achievement in space. The shuttle enabled the space program to conduct space research, fly science observatories, launch satellites, and assemble the International Space Station. The station, a partnership among 5 agencies representing 15 nations, has been continuously crewed since November 2000, enabling astronauts to gain valuable insight on how to live and work in space 365 days a year.
In collaboration with engineers and scientists on Earth, astronauts have collected and stored solar energy, recycled wastewater to minimize water needs from Earth, conserved water usage, created the air they breathe by splitting water molecules with electricity, grown plants without gravity, and kept their bodies healthy in zero gravity. Research on board the space station has provided advances in biology and biotechnology, physics, material sciences, robotics, and many other disciplines. The station has lifted us high above political, cultural, language, and national boundaries to observe hurricanes, tsunamis, forest fires, and volcanic action from afar, while circling the world every 90 minutes. Through at least 2024, the space station will have rotating 6-member crews to advance research and technology in low Earth orbit, roughly 220 miles above the Earth.
To replace the space shuttle, which is no longer delivering cargo and crew to the space station, NASA is entering an extraordinary new era. NASA is investing financial and technical resources to stimulate efforts within the private sector to develop and demonstrate safe, reliable, and cost-effective cargo and crew space transportation capabilities. Innovative spacecrafts and launch vehicles are changing the way cargo and will change the way crews are transported to the International Space Station and to low Earth orbit. Further, this is creating a market environment in which space transportation services are also available to private sector companies.
Having opened low Earth transportation to U.S. industry, NASA is focusing on developing 2 necessary elements for future human deep space exploration: a crew vehicle called Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle, and a heavy lift rocket known as the Space Launch System, or SLS. The programs for these vehicles are moving out, intensely focused on meeting the goal of flying the new rocket and Orion without crew by 2017, and with the first crew flight to take place in 2021. Using the lessons learned from over 50 years of space flight, NASA is testing and building an advanced space exploration system that will take our astronauts to deep space destinations humans have never visited and return them safely to Earth.
The Orion will be outfitted for long-duration missions that reach far beyond low Earth orbit. For this reason, the spacecraft will incorporate innovations and advancements in the crew escape system, electrical power system, rocket engines, navigation and flight control systems, and communication systems. Orion will also require radiation protection for the crew and safe, reliable life support systems. This new spacecraft will be launched on the SLS rocket, which will send astronaut explorers on more challenging and distant missions. The rocket will be the most capable U.S. launch vehicle built to date, and with the Orion, will enable human exploration into the solar system.
To journey into deep space, NASA is pursuing an integrated space exploration strategy that supports both science and human spaceflight goals and advances space exploration technology. Mission analysis and international discussions supporting the strategy are ongoing. NASA will ramp up our capabilities to reach and operate at a series of increasingly demanding destinations while advancing our technological capabilities with each step forward. This will include early test and demonstration flights between the Earth and Moon, with NASA planning to redirect a small asteroid to a distant retrograde lunar orbit and send humans to explore it, then possibly visit one of Mars's moons, or the surface of the red planet itself. By visiting a captured asteroid in lunar orbit, astronauts will learn how to do long-term space operations in a deep space environment while maintaining close proximity to Earth, and gain vital information exploring territory untouched by humans since the formation of the solar system.
An asteroid mission requires new space transportation vehicles and systems that are capable of operating in an environment with almost no gravitational field. NASA is conceptualizing habitat and spacewalking systems with new spacesuit designs and anchoring tools, and robots that can work side by side with the crew or be remotely controlled.
Traveling to Mars is our ultimate goal. Why Mars? Like Earth, Mars has an atmosphere, water, ice, and evolving geology. Robotic rovers that NASA has sent to Mars are investigating whether the planet has ever been capable of supporting life. Because of its Earth-like attributes, Mars is seen as an excellent candidate for human exploration as we expand into the solar system.
So NASA has its sights set on the red planet, but getting there will be no easy task.
Even now, we're looking at the solvable challenges of human missions to Mars and are developing technologies to pave the way. It could take up to 6 months to reach Mars. Then, because of flight trajectories, astronauts will have to leave within 30 days or remain on Mars for 500 days. On the way to Mars, the crew will have to cope with different kinds of stress in a high-risk, confined environment with limited communication with Earth. As NASA travels through the solar system, astronauts will need to communicate quickly with other spacecraft and Earth, and in emergencies, even hold video conferences. For this, NASA is developing a communication system to operate at higher radio frequencies and at optical frequencies using laser communication systems. A new internet system is being developed that will give each planet its own domain name, for example, www.alphabase.mars. The new system will even compensate for the great time delay in communicating between bodies in space, which is 29 minutes one way when Mars is closest to the Earth.
The long voyage through deep space is filled with many dangers, including protons from solar flares, gamma rays from distant newborn black holes, and galactic cosmic rays from outside our solar system. Astronauts have not experienced complete exposure to deep space cosmic rays since the Apollo missions, which were of short duration. When astronauts are on the International Space Station, Earth intercepts about 1/3 of cosmic rays, and 1/3 are deflected by Earth's magnetic field. So before sending humans into deep space, we need to research and develop new technologies and materials to protect astronauts.
There are other health hazards to research before attempting long voyages as well. NASA has been continually investigating protective solutions for physiological changes that occur in heart function, bone mineral density, muscle mass, sensory motor skills, and the immune system. On the space station, we found that aerobic and resistive daily exercise protects the astronauts' bones, muscles, and heart very well, so exercise equipment will be necessary on longer exploratory missions. Additional challenges will arise with having small groups of people in an isolated environment for long long periods of time, with prolonged interactions between humans and machines, and with maintenance of sufficient quantities of food with adequate nutrition. NASA is working to identify solutions for all of these challenges on future missions.
Once on Mars, astronauts will find evidence of extensive water erosion, channels, and floodplains. Astronauts will extract subsurface water for their use. The crew will need surface systems to produce air to breathe, fuel for vehicles, and equipment to mine and process resources. But then, these astronauts will have the distinction of bringing Martian samples back to Earth, which will transform our understanding of Mars. As always, new technologies developed to overcome the challenges of interplanetary travel will also find applications that improve life on Earth. Thousands of technological spin-offs have benefited American industry and citizens in the decades since NASA's 1958 inception, while NASA's cost to the American taxpayer is currently less than 1/2 cent of each federal tax dollar.
So today, NASA looks forward to writing the next chapter of human spaceflight with its commercial and international partners, advancing research and technology on the International Space Station, opening low Earth orbit to U.S. industry, and pushing the frontiers of deep space even farther. As NASA's next chapter in human spaceflight evolves, there are new and increasing opportunities for each citizen to experience low Earth orbit, to become involved in new facets of an expanding space economy, and to view new vistas in deep space virtually through NASA's exploration.
As Space Shuttle Atlantis launched on the last mission of the shuttle program, astronaut commander Chris Ferguson said, "We're not ending the journey today. We're completing a chapter of a journey that will never end."
Please join us for the next exciting chapter of NASA's journey. It will be in our lifetimes that NASA and the world will see humans walking on the mysterious red planet.
So that means the first humans to step foot on Mars are already walking Earth today.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm Molly McKinney.
And I'm Caleb Kinchlow, and this
is NASA 360.
You're watching Clacko TV. watching Clacko TV.
Clacko TV. Look for us on these local channels.
You're watching Clacko TV. You're watching Clacko TV. watching Clacko TV.
This is Danny. Danny is a Siberian Husky. He is approximately 4 years old. He came into us as a stray, and so we don't have a lot of history for him, but we do recommend a family that is experienced in the breed. For this fella, we're recommending no kids, no cats. He could be dog selective. He'd do best with a female dog, and we really want to have some breed experience. He does still need to be neutered, so if you're interested in this fella, he's a little bit shy at first, but once he he's a pretty nice fella, so come on in and visit with this fella. This is Rolo. Rolo is a Chihuahua mix. He is neutered. He came into us as a stray. We named him Rolo because he looks like the Rolo candy that comes around in Halloween. We do think that he's about a year old. We're recommending no children for him because he gets a little frightened at first. We don't know about cats, and we absolutely are recommending no apartments because he can be loud. He seems pretty clean about his bathroom habits, and once he gets to know you, he's pretty excitable. He wants to be the best friend of you. Hi, baby, can you sit? He says, no, I can't sit, but I can give lots and lots of kisses. Lots of kisses. Good boy. And this fella is available for adoption. So if you're interested in a smaller dog and have a fenced yard or a way to contain them, I would encourage you to come in and take a look at him. But again, this fella is a no apartments kind of guy. So this is Biggie. Biggie is a neutered Chihuahua Dachshund mix. We're guessing him to be about 8 years old. He came into us as a stray, along with another little dog that right now isn't in his kennel. And this little fella, we're recommending no kids. He's okay with dogs, no apartments, and we don't know about any cat history for him. But he seems to be a pretty nice fella, but he can bark and make some noise, and so we're, again, recommending no apartments. And he is available now for adoption. So this little girl came into us as a stray on the 28th of October. We have named her Tasha, and she is now available for adoption. We don't have very much history for her, and we're guessing her to be about 2 years old and still does need to be spayed. And so we'll learn more about her as she stays. This is our dog of the week, Ryder. So this is Ryder. Ryder is a approximately 2-year-old pit bull mix. He came into us as a stray. He does seem to like other dogs. He is going to need some good formal training. He does pull on leash. He does know how to sit on a leash. Come here, baby. Oh, good job. Can you sit for me? What a very nice sit. Takes treats nicely. Can you down? Oh, very nice. Good job, buddy. Can you sit back up for me? Good job. So gentle. You shake? Ryder, you shake? No, I can lay down. Down? Oh, good boy. Can you stay? Can you come back around? Come here. Good, sit. There you go, good boy. This fella is active, and so he will need to have somebody that's willing to put some time and effort to exercise him, and take him to an obedience class would be good. Can you sit again? Very nice. Can you look over here and look at the camera? Nope. Sit. Good. Right there. Oh, you're so stunning. Look at how beautiful you are. Obviously, he works for food really well. Good job. You want to come here? Come on. Let's try again. Okay, Ryder up. Up. Good. And down. All the way. All the way. Silly dog. There you go. Good boy. Because that's smart. Agility might be a good thing for me. I know.